Happy terrific Tuesday. My name is Ruben, Coach Ru Austria, here presenting the LIFEline Challenge for Q2 2026. Let's make it happen. Oh man, today is a momentous day. It is the creation of the LIFEline Challenge, formerly known as the Learn Local Challenge. Probably don't know about that because it has been in beta. This is the prime time. This is me uh, talking about not just real estate, but pretty much life and everything that's important to it. So, again, welcome to the LIFEline Challenge. My name is Ruben Austria. Let me do a quick introduction about who I am first, formally introduce, and then we can go from there. So who am I? Well, I am currently revolutionizing real estate investing education by serving educators and investors nationwide. Full-time, what I do is I'm a private money lender and consultant for real estate investors who build wealth through real estate. And as far as who I am so much more than just that. I'll tell you a quick story of how this all came about first, and then it'll all make sense. I went to school for an engineering degree, and the whole time I just realized that this is not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So as much as I wanted to do something else in school, education and getting that diploma, getting that degree from Northeastern University, go Huskies, by the way, was something that was just like of utmost importance. So I decided to get that degree, graduated in 2001 into one of the worst, times to graduate, at the time anyways. Two planes just hit the World Trade Center in New York, and essentially that's how I was spending my summer. I spent my summer enjoying after I graduated, and then I actually got into working, and then I just immediately knew that this just wasn't for me. I was an engineer. It was a highly touted field. It felt really good getting my degree. I even made it to become a sales manager for the company that I worked for, that I eventually got a job after 2000, a year of being jobless. And, I just knew deep down in my heart that it wasn't the thing that I wanted to do. A stroke of fate happened, in which, my mom ended up getting cancer, and I decided just then and there that I'm going to start living my life in a way that I hadn't before. So I grew up in Boston, and the big thing about being in Boston was doing the marathon as well. So along with quitting my job and becoming an entrepreneur, which I'll talk about very soon, I also decided that I actually wanted to be someone who was running races and doing races and doing the events like the Boston Marathon. That I just grew up as a young adult admiring these folks. And when the time came for me to decide that I wanted to quit my job, I immediately started started running and becoming an endurance athlete as well. So the thing to know about that is that that experience really really created who I am, and what I was up to. And it really created me as a person. And for the next 20 years I've been in real estate, but I've also been doing these races and running. So the whole idea of this Learn Local LIFEline Challenge, and by the way, really quickly, to show you, is that everything that I created with my company, and my company is LIFEline. So LIFEline, there's a lot behind that as well. And we're in terms of, I used to be a financial planner as well, and I sold a lot of life insurance. So I had this thing about life, and the letters that spell life on the phone, and it just everything that everything that I became professionally, grew into this, idea of, not only being an entrepreneur, but also being an endurance athlete. So just to show you really quickly, not to impress, but to impress upon you, like how committed I was, I started, as part of who I was and being an entrepreneur, I wanted to do not only, these races and like prove to myself that I could do it. It was really parallel to the whole experience of being an entrepreneur, to be honest. And that is all to say is that I'm here now because I created this LIFEline challenge in order to educate, inspire, and empower folks. And what it looks like is something like this. So if you can pull up the slide up, the whole intention of what I do at LIFEline is to educate, inspire, and empower folks. And specifically real estate educators, real estate investors, and we'll introduce the real estate producers as well. So the whole point of this, and if you're familiar, if you're in an entrepreneur, just let me go quickly back into this whole idea of, if you're an entrepreneur, you may have some familiarity with these groups that that I was a part of as I became someone who was doing business and in business. So Rotary International really created my sense of serving the community. It was something that really stuck with me. Service above self was something that they touted, and it's just something that really, really kind of resonated with me. And I've been doing. I'm not part of Rotary right now. I plan to join again. Business Networking International. It's a group that helps you work with and communicate and also do business with people by sending each other referrals. And LIFEline is, BNI is critical in how I created LIFEline to be. And last but not least, and probably most importantly in the day and age that we live in, public speaking is, quite frankly, like super important. In fact, everyone used to shy away from it. Social media makes it easier for us to be, obviously out in the public. But this is different. What I'm doing right here, live with you, is way different. And in fact, we're actually on LinkedIn, YouTube, should be on Instagram. I didn't get that set up yet. But anyways, the point being is that everything that I created for everything that you see here, everything that you see here with this slide, I created, and it became something that I developed, and I call it live community networking. And this whole platform of live community networking is available through something that now exists, and we call that LEARNin Local Live. So if you're not familiar, this is streaming to the LEARNin Local Live channel on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. But if you are familiar, LEARNin Local Live. If you're not familiar, LEARNin Local Live is the first real estate live podcast that I know of. And what we're doing is we're creating a platform that allows real estate professionals, in this case we call them educators, and real estate investors, to interact in a space where they connect, collaborate, and create opportunities. But the whole point is to really educate, inspire, and empower everyone, not only to promote their business, but to be live. Because right now, quite frankly, it is really impossible to trust anything that you see on the internet. Unless it's live, or unless I meet somebody in person that's demonstrating something live, it's quite frankly, it doesn't exist. So the whole idea of what we do on LEARNin Local Live is to connect, collaborate, and create opportunities for these, again, anybody in a local community. That's the reason why we always refer to local community as being integral to what we're doing. It's because anybody in real estate is part of their local community. And there's something that I say all the time, is that real estate is local, and everyone has a community that they want to invest in. So the reason why I created this whole LIFEline challenge is because I want to create it so that we are able to collectively inspire, educate, and empower, as I mentioned, educators, investors, and producers worldwide, certainly at some point, but starting with San Diego, moving on to the rest of California, and then eventually moving on to the rest of the country, the United States. We are, at least I am, but we are. I already have a team of folks that we have created called the LEARNin Local Academy, and I'll send you the link to make sure that you get that. But basically, what I want to do, and I'm going to get the help of some of the educators and producers that we have here. What I'm going to do is go through Martin Magana, M&M. How are you, sir? How's everyone doing? How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. I had a long morning, but happy to be here.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you showing up to help talk about this coming LIFEline challenge that we,
No, of course.
And formerly the LEARNin Local Challenge. So
Yeah, no, I love everything we're doing here, and I love what you've built and how much it's progressed since I came on. So it's just super cool. We get to do another wave of the 6-week challenge. So super excited.
100%. Amazing. Actually, you know what? Before I get into further than that, Martin, maybe I should just tell everyone how we met. So I met Martin at a networking event almost a year ago, right? In May. And I told him that I was building this thing called LEARNin Local Live, and he had told me that he's a wholesaler in the business. And if you don't know what a real estate wholesaler is, everybody, basically they help, in many ways, they help investors to find deals and do business. Just so happens that I didn't have a very good, I didn't have a very good feel or gauge of any good wholesalers out there. So was a little bit hesitant, but knowing that Martin, when you meet Martin in person, M&M, I call him, he's money making Martin Magana, and every time who he was spoke volumes over what I knew a wholesaler to be. So from there, we just basically created a relationship, personally and business wise. And you've been on the shows, and now, man, and it's almost been it's certainly been, it's April already. So next year,
Yeah, it's coming up on, I think it was the end of May, in like May 20th or something.
Yeah. Unbelievable, man. We're coming into our 1-year anniversary. But one thing I will say, it's been great. It's been great, and none of this wouldn't have been possible without you and everyone else who's really supported it. So as much as it might seem like it's a slow burn at the moment, man, everyone has to understand. Everyone understands that. I mean, this is the year of the Avatar, right, Martin?
Oh, yeah.
We don't believe anything. Well, let me ask you: do you believe anything that you see on the internet? And I'm likely not.
I it's like a little bit of both, where I'll see something and I'm very big on, especially if it's political, I'll investigate, do my own research, because depending on what site you're using, with real estate, it's the same thing, where it's like everything comes down to politics at the end of the day. So just making sure you do your own research on, if it's politics, if it's the housing market, if it's an area you want to buy in, just do your own research, find your own independent area that isn't biased, and just make sure you're getting all the right facts, because don't just believe everything face value, because you never honestly know what's being put out there and who's verifying the information.
You never knew. Absolutely never know. So Martin, I appreciate you joining me. So we were about to get into really like the week to learnings that will be essentially part of the LIFEline Challenge, formerly the LEARNin Local Challenge. And Martin is the man. He knows everything. He knows all this. So he's going to really give me some good feedback, or at least some good information about these these weeks, everything that we can learn. So week one. So again, if you've just tuning in, what you're tuning into is an introduction to the LIFEline Challenge. By the way, we're taking questions. I know that this is the first time doing the challenge, so I wouldn't be surprised if we wouldn't have any live viewers. But if you're watching this recorded, by all means, ask any questions, because me and Martin will be happy to help you out. So week one, Martin, how many different real estate investing strategies are there?
Oh, there's a lot. There's the basic fix and flip. There's a buy and hold. I don't see it as much in California, but you have the BRRRR, the buy, rehab, refinance, all that. And then there's also like the ones where it's just straight up buying your own property for yourself. So depending on what avenue, how much income you're making, how much money you have, and how much time you have, and your level of risk, that's really going to determine what investment strategy is best for you. Yeah. So what I would recommend is you talk to your lenders, you talk to your what do you call them, your contractor, you get your team together and see how much risk and how much capital you have, and from there decide where you kind of want to allocate that money, or reach out to a service provider who can kind of put you in the right direction on where and what kind of property to buy, because not every area in San Diego is built the same.
100%, 100%. The one thing I will say about week one and choosing the investment strategy, and we had some time to ponder on these weeks, Martin, because I think I want really people to really understand what they're going to get. So we kind of like allocated 5 minutes per slide, so we don't have to
Okay.
run through. I feel like a lot of investors are capable. Would you say? As long as they're like, they have all the, obviously all the right things. They, they have liquidity, they have the credit score, they have the, experience.
Especially if they're buying in California, like they probably have their stuff together if they're looking at to buy any type of property in
Yeah.
California.
But I will say, coming from, because obviously whenever you learn something new, you're always new at one point, right? But what I will say about the biggest challenge that I think investors or new investors have is literally figuring this out. What are they going to do? Because just knowing, oh man. And by the way, I made a lot of mistakes not knowing the strategy that I wanted to do. Because there's just so much time that you can spend trying to do each and every single strategy. And the fact that you're a jack of all trades, I'm sure everyone has heard this saying, you're a master of none.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. So, and that's the reason why it's week one, because as much as people think it's something that they should kind of really like, I don't know, figure out later, I think you just figure it out now. Figure it out now, get yourself set up, know exactly what you're doing and getting into. And the best way would be to learn from people who already did it and be like, hey, I know
100%.
I know everything about flips. I don't know anything about rentals, but hey, if you want to learn about flips, let me,
Yeah.
I
The
can help.
two biggest bits of advice I would give would probably be reach out to people who have done a lot of this, right? So ask them about it, because a lot of the people will ignore a lot of the costs that are hidden in there, the escrow fees, the hauling fees, just random fees like that, especially with fix and flips. Or even if you're buying buy and hold, like, you have to deal with the tenants, you have to allocate a certain amount of money for repairs every so often and all that, and just making sure you have that. And the other thing I would say is, if you have one, just leave your ego at the door. Like if you put past that, like, I have this much money, I can do all this, I don't need you guys. If you put that on the side, you can go in, you can open so many new doors, you can meet so many new people who are willing to help you because you're a great person to work with. And that will open up so many better opportunities that are hidden behind the, I'm not going to work with that guy because all he does is flaunt his money or flaunt how many deals he's done in the past. Leave that behind. And that's honestly the greatest thing that I see is investors making. That's like the biggest issue they see.
Actually, that should be like the sub lesson of week one, is check your ego at the door. That should, your ego is not your amigo. I don't know if I've ever said that to you. But yeah, if someone told me that one time, and I'm like, I'm going to steal that. The thing I will also say about like the whole choosing your strategy thing, as you know, Martin, the real estate market cycles, right? So in a good market where things are flowing, flips are like the thing to do. Right now, that's not the thing. Flips are not the thing to do. Please don't do flips, because you are going to get, even if you find a deal, you're likely to get, likely not able to sell it because no one's buying homes right now.
Yeah, especially if it's your first flip, like you're gonna sit.
Forget it. Yeah, forget it. Unless you get a steal of a deal and there's so much meat on the bone, meaning that there's so much profit to be had that you can just make so many mistakes, then great, do it. But in a normal market where everyone is saying, hey, I need to make 15, 20% ROI, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And like, it's just depending on the market, is not a good market to do flips. Just trust me on this one. Not a good market. Just like real estate, right, Martin? If you have your license, hey, it might not be a good, it might not necessarily be a good, thing to do. If you're a realtor, work with conventional buyers, but there are investors that invest all the time, looking for rentals, looking for flips, looking to do ground up construction. You know what I mean? So like, you really got to step out of the box, and that's what we're hoping to try to.
There's always some sort of like untapped avenue you can go in. If no one's buying right now, you're having difficulties with open houses, reach out to investors, and vice versa. If you're investor focused, just don't be afraid to reach out and get into traditional. It's a longer process, but again, there's money to be made. All you have to do is just become knowledgeable in whatever field you're doing and just get on it.
One thing I will say is that I feel like I would have been way more successful as an investor full-time investor when I was from 2008 to 2011. I would have been way more successful if I had flipped and kept some of the properties to rent. That's
Mhm.
something that would have been a game changer. Just so. But anyways, we'll talk way more about that. Let's get to lesson week 2. So again, week 1 is going to be a week from now. Week 2 will be 2 weeks from now. And this is, man, this is just the cuts to the heart of who I am as a professional. I've been in the mortgage business since 2005. Primarily conventional in the beginning of my career, but now as a private lender, week 2 is like, after week 1, this would be week 1 and most people's, I would say, weekly challenge or whatever. But getting financially prepared and approved, oh my goodness. Martin, how much time, if any, maybe not anymore, or at least before you knew better, did you waste with people who just weren't financially prepared as a
When
wholesaler?
I kind of started wholesaling in real estate in general, that was one of the things where I didn't really understand that just because a guy is calling me saying he wants a flip doesn't mean he has everything ready to start that flip.
Oh, no
So
way.
really, really, when I first started is when I was kind of more naive and was like, "Oh, this guy wants this. Let me plug him in. He's ready to go." And then his finances aren't ready. His money's tied up in another property, or he actually's got to wait 3 to 6 months because again, his property is still being held up by something. So that's one of the most important questions if you are going to do a flip is getting pre-approved, or in case of a flip, just having the capital or having the resources ready so that you would get approved come if you were to get plugged into a property.
Yeah, 100%. So this strikes home. This really strikes for me because as a conventional lender, it was a little bit different getting people financially approved. It was really just more about credit score for conventional lending. And depending obviously on the programs that were available, how much down payment they needed, right? Um, but when I started, just FYI, they were doing ninja loans, Martin. So you didn't even need a job to qualify for a mortgage, unfortunately. And that caused a lot of problems, by the way,
Yep.
in 2008, right? But as an investor, as a private money lender who's working with individuals who are not approved, it's way more stringent, right? I mean, they won't even let you see houses if you don't have some sort of approval or whatever. But I would say it's much trickier to get an investor approved because there's so much data to collect, experience, documents that would help them get the loan. You know what I mean? LLC docs. You know what I mean? There's just so much more information to collect to get pre-approved to invest. I mean, week 2 is going to answer all the questions that you have, and we're really going to hope to streamline all this, then the whole process of financing. Because, quite frankly, I wouldn't suggest wasting any time as someone who's looking to buy their first piece of real estate or their 100th piece of real estate if they just don't know what kind of loan they're going to get. You know what I mean? It's just way too much time spent on that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I know for us, we always ask for proof of funds up front before we plug you into a property, just to make sure we're not wasting not just our time, but the seller's time, because we don't want to burn any relationships. But in terms of buying the property, like just making sure that you're working with a good and reputable lender such as yourself, because not all brokers and lenders are built the same. There's a lot of like bad apples, a lot of bad players in the game, and just being able to distinguish when you're getting played or not. So it's always good to get 1 or 2 opinions, see what your best rates are, and kind of ask them like how they operate to make sure that you're not getting scammed, because it's very prevalent right now.
100%, 100%. One thing I will say though is, and I laugh because I said this at one of our networking events, Martin. I said, it's funny to me how on social media you can have a guy that says, "Hey, I can help you get qualified, for this deal or whatever," and it's 100% financing or 150% financing, whatever ridiculous things that you see on TikTok or YouTube. But it's just like, if they were legit, why in the world would you have people who don't have good credit why would you want them to call you? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand, because for whatever reason, those, I work with investors who just reached out to these lenders who claim that they can do everything. I just don't understand why they want to talk to people who are not qualified. You know what I mean? So But that's the whole reason why we're doing this live, everything live, and like all this, creation live, because I know for a fact, I know some lenders, or I knew some lenders that were unsavory. For absolutely 100%, they would never go live on a video talking about what they can do and what they can't do. Does that make sense? So just, I don't know why. Anyways, we're gonna drop the link to LEARNin Local Academy, where everything that we do is live. So hopefully, if you're an educator, meaning that you're a real estate professional who has some expertise to share, or you're an investor we're looking currently catering to really new investors in LEARNin Local Academy, by the way, so they can learn from our educators. But by the way, if you're experienced and you want to be live talking about what you do, then you're included as well. So hey, we got a lot to go through. Let's go through week 3. That's week 2, and week 3 is where Mr. Money Making Martin Magana shines, because how to find the best deal in real estate once you are chosen a strategy, and once you are pre-approved, hopefully for most strategies, right? You then have to find a really good deal. So Martin, I'm going to let you shine, because this is essentially where you're going to star in week 3. But I will tell you is that the thing that I've always learned or heard when I first started investing is that you got to buy it right. And that means you got to get a good deal. So Martin, not to spill the beans, or not to share exactly what you're going to share on week 3, which is 3 weeks from now, but give us a preview of what week 3 finding a good deal will entail.
Yeah. So the very basic aspect of this is finding the location and finding the amount you want to make based on your strategy. For basics, everyone's going to tell me, I want to do it in San Diego at this zip code, and I want to make 10, 12% return on my investment. With those little base parameters, you can find a lot of properties, but those properties are probably not going to fit that exact parameter, especially if you're getting it from different wholesalers, because the two things you got to really look at are the purchase cost and the ARV. ARV standing for after repair value.
Yep.
So the basics of what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking to buy a fix and flip, especially at a certain price, and then exit at the ARV. And that kind of spread in between is your profit. And from there, you're going to subtract your costs, your rehab, your every little fee under the sun is going to go under that. And from there, you're going to be left with that return on investment that you are looking for, be it 10%, be it whatever it is. But that being said, you really need to deep dive those numbers, really need to analyze, really need to have your contractor, you let everything in place to make sure that you can even reach that. And even with that, when you're buying the property, even if it makes sense at a certain number, make sure you're accounting for the time that it's going to sit, the time it's going to take you to rehab it, then relist it. Make sure that, because at the end of the day, people always forget you're probably not going to be buying a property in California for cash. You're going to be using private money or some sort of loan. So every month you hold the property, you're going to be paying holding costs, and that's really what kills deals, especially if you overpay. So making sure you have a good lender to have a good term on. The location you want to narrow down, and also don't be afraid of branching out from the location you have, especially if you're working with people you really trust and know the area. That will open up a lot of different deals you can do. And then make sure you just have everything in place to make sure that you aren't going to end up bleeding money into the project and having to get rid of it in some shape or form.
100%. I know that was a lot.
Yeah.
It's like,
I can yap about this.
That was a lot. That was a lot. So that's like the high level. Probably, if you've ever been investing in real estate, maybe that sounds like gibberish, or
But we'll go into very much detail.
Yeah. But that's the reason why you need to tune in. That's the reason why you need to tune into the challenge, because every week we literally got to go through this. We're going to literally spend 55 minutes on every episode, rather than spending 55 minutes on one episode here. So this is, like I said, this is really just the introduction. The one thing I will say to follow up on what you just said, though, Martin, is that there's just a lot of people, and it's easy, right? Whether you're selling a house or whether you're selling a car or whatever, there's just a lot of quote unquote fees or costs or expenses that people just don't realize. And if you're an unsavory individual and you weren't money making Martin Magana, you would leave all that out because it would seem like a better deal, right? But like I said, like that's the whole point of us being live, is that like we want to give you all the information that you need to succeed. and just leaving all those extra, quote unquote, not extra, but the costs associated and expenses out, it would completely be misleading. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, right, Martin? Like,
Yeah.
it's like someone who says, like, hey, yeah, who does a simple math and says, hey, yeah, buy it for 500,000, put in 200,000 and sell it for like 800,000. Great. You made, you know what I mean? Like you made 100,000, but you didn't account for everything else that's there. You know what I mean? And then once you do that, you maybe you make only 25,000, which completely changes the reason, the reasoning for doing the deal in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like you put up 800K and you made 25 grand. Like the risk to reward is just.
Yeah. You might as well have gotten a job. You know what I mean? And not only that, you're going to be doing that for 6 months at least, likely, right?
Yeah, especially if you're newer. It's only like the seasoned people who are like doing it in 3 to 4 months. But even then, it's like with now, it's like I always allocate 6 months. And if you're newer, honestly more just because you need your team together. And obviously things are sitting right now. That's where you kind of reach out to good agents who will list your property like at the right price. Make sure you buy and sell. Everything will sell everything will sell eventually for the price that it's worth. So just make sure you find that price early and you're not 130 days into your escrow. And then that's when you decide that maybe I was 100 grand, a little over.
Oh Lord. All right. Well, without spilling the rest of the beans, Martin, let's move on. Week 4, 4 weeks from now, we're going to be talking about probably the next really important thing to talk about is construction. Because if you're in real estate and you're doing deals, quite frankly, you're probably going to do something called a value add project, which would essentially require that you spend money. And that money is normally going to be spent into construction, either rehabbing something, building something, whatever. And man, I gotta tell you, Martin, there's a time that I was flipping homes in 2000, 2008, 9, and 10, where we had so much business, we didn't all do all the vetting that we should have. And very short story, we had so many short sales going on, we were cherry picking all these short sales for the ones that we could buy right. And man, we had 3 deals that were all teardowns. This contractor said, hey, I'll give you a deal. You give me volume, I'll give you a deal. And we're like, okay, that makes sense. I go to Costco, you know what I mean? And he was just like, hey, and by the way, each of these deals is like probably 100K in construction, at least at the time. With inflation, it's 150 probably. But so they were both teardowns. So he did, okay, hey, I'll give you a deal. 3 houses, split them into 4 payments for each house. So what he did was we signed the contracts. The first phase is on a teardown is literally like filling up dumpsters, right? So this guy, we found out is he just got a day cruise, to get to those houses, however long it took to basically take out all the old drywall and everything that was needed and basically take it down to studs. And literally, it's probably like 30 grand of each of those houses, 35 grand, I think it was. He would then, or not 35 grand, but whatever the first phase was. But the point being, he basically used the day laborers to take the houses down to the studs, and then he asked for the second payment. And then when the second payment check cleared, he was gone. He was gone, nowhere to be found. So what was worse is that we were taken for over 6 figures. But what was worse than that? It was like our houses were exposed. They were, you know what I mean? They were, and it was like coming into the winter time, and it was just like, oh my God, it was just a nightmare. But that's just one example that I share with everybody, is that like when you're a new investor, you got to find a good contractor. It's just like, you have to be able to, because that's like literally where you lose the most money if you bought it right. I mean, it blows my mind. So week 5, we're going to be introducing you to some reputable contractors who can help you get your, week 4, we'll be introducing you to some reputable contractors. Week 5, let's get into that because our timing is, really, it's getting really tight because I think I over talked about the whole construction piece. Week 5, how to protect your investment and close your deal. So, Martin, I'm glad you're here because I think this is a step that a lot of new investors kind of take for granted, I would say. They don't really realize how to choose their correct escrow partners or their correct title partners, or even even their appraiser. That's part of closing their deal, is getting a loan, right? Or even their home inspector. So closing the deal or even insurance, right? And making sure like you get all these people in place. Just give us an idea of how important that is for you in your business, Martin, because obviously you close deals that you find, right? It's something that you guys do all the time.
Yeah, the biggest thing, there's 3 kind of big aspects to this. So it's title, escrow, and obviously underwriting your deal. With title, it just kind of goes back into the history of the property on if there's any liens, if there's any actions against the property, making it so that it's unclean, basically meaning that if you close escrow, if it somehow closes, when you go to sell it later or you try to get permits or anything, it won't work because it turns out the previous owner owed a mechanic $100K for the roof, or something happened with the sidewalk and they never paid. So all of our properties will always have clear and like clean title. And if at any point during the escrow process it comes up something that we might have missed, we will 100% cancel that and just take the loss on that, because we will never hand off bad title to anyone, because 1, that's illegal, especially if we knew about it, but 2, that's just horrible business. But if you're reaching out to other wholesalers or other people, just make sure you ask for the title and all that. And then the second is the escrow, having a good escrow officer and an escrow company, ideally one that has everything in the title and escrow in one house, because that will avoid having to call title, who has to call escrow, and then you have to go back and forth, mediate, do all this. And it will just take such a long time, especially not all escrows are created equal. I know me personally, we use Tycor Title, and they've been amazing. And honestly, well, I have nothing but good things to say about them. But
Part of
making sure you
our network, by the way, too.
Tracy
So
Assey.
Tracy
Oh, yeah.
has, yep, 100%.
But yeah, having a good escrow officer who can they're just going to be almost like a mediator, a transaction coordinator for the deal, making sure everything is where it needs to be, calling the right people to make sure money, we need this, we need that, we need that. It just,
Yeah,
it saves
100%.
you
I
so
mean,
much time.
and there 100%. There are scams that are just associated with just getting people's deposits, having having a short escrow close time, right? And then basically dragging on the process so they lose,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So they
And
basically
make sure you verify where you're sending your money to. If you're going to wire them, always make sure, because they will never have you wire without calling. And if they do, don't work with them. And
unbelievable.
then the other one will be making sure you just get a good deal. Like you underwrite it so well that you avoid any type of risk. The best way to protect the deal is to buy it correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if you buy something that isn't like, if it's sus from the beginning and the realtor is already being weird, there's probably more than just like the rehab that they're lying about, the title, the escrow, something could be messed up. So always make sure you just from the beginning, just always make sure you have a good eye for any kind of weird interactions, weird properties. So
You sound like my son a little bit, saying it was a little sus. And that's what I'll say. Say, hey, you know what? We know Learning Local Academy knows no generations. I mean, we accept them all, baby boomer all the way down to Gen Alpha, if you're that young. But anyhow, going back to what I said, the last thing I'll just say, just to add on to it, is the insurance, right? A lot of times people have no clue. They have to close really quickly and they can't get an insurance policy. Well, guess what? There's just some things that aren't insurable. You know what I mean? Like, and quite frankly, if you're not insured, if the property is not insurable, guess what? You're not going to get a loan on it. So, man, it's a shame to get people involved in like doing all the steps, taking all the right steps, and then not being able to close it. And that's why that's week 5, essentially.
Yeah. And then for insurance, we do work with Farmers Insurance with Patrick Ono and their team, and they're amazing.
Oh no, is amazing. Oh no. In fact, we're gonna create a whole like social media strategy on Mr. Patrick Oh no's name, because oh no, I need insurance. So anyways, last but not least, let's get to week 6. So week 6 is when really, you should be feeling good about yourself. You've done your first deal, but you know what? this challenge is not about doing one deal or just your first deal. It's about creating wealth, right? And we create wealth through real estate by doing it over and over again. So, what I will say and tell you is that we have an amazing 1031 exchange guy called his name is Cadillac Chris Astillero with Exchange Resources. Um, and according to Chris, and obviously I hear this almost every day, save up to 30% on taxes. You know what I mean? Because who wants to pay taxes on their money on things that they've made? The one thing I will understand, just to quickly go back with 1031 exchanges, that's if you buy and sell property. If you're not planning to sell the property, 1031 is not a tax strategy necessarily, but maybe you will eventually sell the property. But there are other things included. 1031 is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg, if you will. It's much of the conversation, but there's so many things you can do to prepare yourself to build from that first week. Martin, you want to say anything about week 6 or Cadillac, Chris, our partners?
Yeah, I know when Chris is here, he's gonna go off on this. He's honestly the only 1031 exchange guy I've ever will ever deal with for the most part, because I've met like a handful. I've only met like 3 in my entire career, but I really will only ever refer out Chris because I've seen how they work. I've met the people in the industry, and they just do an amazing job. But the premise of it is, if you do end up doing the 1031 exchange route, where you have to buy a or equal or higher property, we do work with those people because we're already on such time, like a tight time frame, that your 1031 exchange time frame is honestly really nice, because it's 45 days versus the week we typically operate in.
100%.
But yeah, they typically give you 45 days to identify a like property to yours, and then from there you will end up swapping them, buy them, and then you're able to work with wholesalers, agents to do that. But reach out to Chris Estolero or just tune in on week 6, and we'll really deep dive what it is, how to do it, and the tax benefits, because the tax break on it is honestly the main reason people are going to do it. That's my end goal in the future, is to be able to 1031 exchange, because you're going to be saving just hundreds of thousands if you're doing a lot of transactions in taxes. So, and that's honestly the end game is not how much money can you make, but how much taxes can you avoid paying.
Well, it's just like financial planning as a whole, right? Like, it's not about how much money you make, it's how much you save.
Yeah.
So like, that's just the thing that we want to create for everybody. The one thing that I will say about Cadillac Chris and a lot of people like him, and it's great that you said this, because it's something I wanted to stress, is that we're creating Learn Local Live, and we're creating Learn Local Live for a reason. There's only so many individuals like Chris, for instance. I mean, Chris can do a nationwide 1031 exchange. So you don't need to find one for California, one for New York, or one for every state, or one for every state you do business in, really. You just need one person. If you have a portfolio all across the country, Chris can help you out. So it's just like, it's so amazing how this is so much, and this is our next slide. And again, that was week 1 to week 6. And then we'll do the week after that, we'll do a kind of wrap up and kind of see how everyone did. But the whole point of everything that we're doing here, Martin, and you've been doing it so well with me since I met you in May, is connecting, collaborating, and creating. So let me just talk quickly about what this is a little bit further, because Martin, you're going to hear me say it in the academy a lot more. I really want to encourage not just real estate professionals, but everyone to connect on LinkedIn. And the reason why is because, quite frankly, if you don't exist on LinkedIn, my underwriting team is going to think you're sus. They're going to think you're a suspect. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, they'll be like, why does this guy not exist on LinkedIn? This is a reason. This is a problem. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, why LinkedIn? Because on Facebook, they don't really care if you're real. You know what I mean? Quite frankly, they don't have the same kind of, they don't have the same kind of protections on Facebook or Meta platforms as they do on LinkedIn. Sorry, Meta, but that's the truth. Now, as far as collaboration is concerned, man, we can collaborate anywhere, but that's where Meta and Facebook and Instagram is. I feel as if what we're doing live, Martin, all the collaboration that we're doing is just a matter of, it's really gonna, all those platforms, I think, well, I don't want to say not all of them, but like Facebook and Meta for sure. When live becomes the thing that everyone's doing, people are still going to use Facebook to connect into different groups, different interest groups, right? So essentially what we're creating with everything once we connect people on LinkedIn is we want all their content to go on to go on Meta so we can collaborate with all these other people, local business owners. And we're just getting started, Martin. It's just the real estate professionals first, but now we're bringing in new investors, which is essentially the interns, right? And then we're going to be bringing in local business people who we've already started getting at our events. You know what I mean? So we just had the CEO of a furniture company we met in Carlsbad, right? Not a couple of weeks ago. I mean, this is really going to snowball. And then creation is really just, it's simple. Creating on YouTube, creating on TikTok, mainly YouTube though, because quite frankly, YouTube is going to be around forever. If you're going to be creating a name, image, and likeness, you want to create on YouTube. That's just 100% the case. So Martin, hey, I'm going to wrap up the whole LIFEline challenge. And I'm just going to mention really quick that the whole idea of the LIFEline challenge and the reason why it was changed from the Learning Local challenge to the LIFEline challenge is because I'm going to host and create this challenge for everyone. I don't want them just to make money. I really want everyone to know that the way that I've been able to be in the real estate business and be an investor in the business was through the step-by-step 42 days, by the way. 42 days is the amount of days it takes to create a habit, Martin. So if you watching here and you want to learn how to invest in real estate, give us 42 days. We'll give you everything you need to know. And what's best about it is when this LIFEline challenge is over, we're gonna do it again. we're gonna keep doing it because again, Martin, as you know, real estate investing, just like showering and motivation, you got to keep doing it. It's something that you just got to keep doing. Wash, rinse, repeat. And I will 100% say that money making Martin Magana is just one of the avatars that you'll meet, and everyone in our academy who's as committed as money making Martin Magana Eminem will give you a lot of great information. You won't need to go anywhere else to learn about real estate. But all the while you're learning about real estate, I've realized that people don't listen necessarily to what they hear. They want to see that you're doing it. So one of the challenges that I have for myself is that I'm going to learn how to play the guitar, Martin, in this 2-week period, along with also doing the Rock and Roll San Diego half marathon on May 31st. I'm going to try to learn to play the guitar. I mean, and maybe if you're so challenged, Martin, and you want to run, you don't have to do the half marathon, but run the 5K. That's the day before. So LIFEline Learning Local will be at the Rock and Roll San Diego event. It's at the Gas Lamp, by the way. So we're gonna have a party two months from now. Any idea what you're gonna challenge yourself to do, Martin? Other than just
honestly,
being an amazing wholesaler?
Right now, my personal challenge has been getting back into shape because I had a bunch of issues with my knees. And now that I'm able to do stuff again, I've been back on drum with like exercising, losing weight again, doing all that. So my 2 current goals are getting lean again, and now that I can run, getting into running. So because right now my endurance is just shot. So as I'm slowly getting back into it, I'm slowly losing weight. I'm slowly doing all this. I feel so much better, and that's kind of my goal. Is I'll probably go for that 5K.
Let's do it. I'd love to see it, man. I'd love to see it because just like getting off the couch and doing your first 5K, it would be your first, Martin?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I want to be there to see it. Same thing. You can get off the couch of wanting to invest in real estate and do your first deal with us. You know what? It might not take 6 weeks. Maybe it takes 2 LIFEline challenges, right? Maybe it takes 3, or maybe it takes 6. It doesn't matter. As long as you're learning the right ways of doing it, some of those actions are going to hit. You're going to get a deal. You'll be working with Martin. You'll be working with me, right? You'll be working with all these other professionals that we're going to introduce you to during the LIFEline challenge. And again, it's just a matter of getting up and doing the work. The only place success goes before work is in the dictionary, everybody. So that's the only place. Um, Martin, wow, weird. The timing was perfect. Is it because that you've been on our shows so often and so many times? Like literally, like we couldn't have timed this perfectly. We were gonna end in 55 minutes or 54 minutes and 33 seconds. This is amazing. So one of the last things I will say is that if you want to be part of our academy, LEARNin Local Academy, creating this content for everyone and making sure they have it available to them, you can join us at join.learnlocal.com. There, you'll be introduced into the platform, into how we create our LEARNin San Diego live show every Friday, which you can find Martin there a part of. He's a staple in on the show. um, Let me ask you, how has the school experience been, Martin? It's only been one quarter. We're going into our second quarter of school, or actually, no, it's our third quarter. But
Mhm. I love it. Just the collaboration aspect that where we're starting about. It's just I can post a deal, someone can post some sort of tip about escrow or a listing that's coming up, and then everyone can just like in the comments just collaborate, saying, "I know a guy for this. I do this. I actually know this area. Like, watch out for this specific SB, whatever it is." So the collaboration aspect is amazing, and it's just like a mini book of business with people who are in real estate. You don't have to filter through them to make sure they're a waste of time or not, because if they're joining that and they're actively participating, you can kind of see just based on the leaderboards who the people you want to be working with are. So at the very least, you'll find the top 10 people in San Diego who actively are trying to meet people and learn more and educate others. So just from that alone, it's invaluable. But the community and the collaboration, I would say, are insane. They're amazing.
100%, and we're really just getting started. I mean, the school we have classrooms in there with our educator content. We have all the insights, deals, and news that we've put on past shows. I mean, at this point, I mean, we've been coming up. Well, we should be coming up on almost 50 shows because it's been a year since we've met. Martin, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing to me because at some point, you know what, with the school and the academy, it's not really about quantity of people in there. It's just the quality, like you said. And again, Martin, I, you know, I can't do anything. I can't say anything more than just really a thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you for being a part of LEARNin Local Live, LEARNin Local Academy. Without educators like you. And what's great, Martin, I will say specifically for yourself and Oak Rock and the rest of the team. Allie's great too, by the way, Allie Perkins. Um, you're so young. You're so young, and you're just hitting. This is a trying time in the real estate business. Obviously, people are not doing that great, right? Interest rates are high. No one's selling their properties. I mean, people are just looking to all the craziness that's happening in the world and seeing when it's going to end. But you know what? One thing I'll say, and one thing that really just kind of just really make sure that you understand, and you know how much I appreciate you. Without the quality people driving this forward, it wouldn't be possible. I could have 10 times as many people, but if we didn't have the core team of people making this possible, it just we wouldn't be here. So Martin, thank you so much. Money making Martin Magana. We will hopefully see you next week here on week 1 of the LIFEline Challenge. We'll have some great guests talking about giving you perspective on which strategy to choose. So make sure you tune in. I'm really looking forward to that. Martin, you get the last minute or to say something. We're to sign off.
Honestly, just thank you for doing all this, for putting it together. I know this has been your vision, your creation for the last how long has it been? Since like
18
2000,
years.
18 years trying to get this off the ground,
Yeah.
and now that we're
Yep.
approaching a year, it's just amazing. I'm so happy I can be here, and honestly, just like the service providers and the people around us that Ruben is kind of bringing into the network has brought me so much value, so much in terms of just knowledge and not just money, but like the knowledge I'm learning from the people he brings in is just it's invaluable. Because like if I call a random escrow officer and have them sit down with me to explain the industry, they'll probably just laugh at me. But like the people he brings in, I'm able to meet with them. I'm able to learn everything about it. And because these are such amazing people who aren't afraid of showing their face and aren't afraid of like meeting new people, I'm able to learn so much and pass this on to you guys. So just for that, I just invaluable. And I thank you guys. So.
Well, you're welcome, Arn. We'll keep doing it. We're all learning. We're all trying to make it happen. So until next week, please join us. Week 1, it's going to be amazing. Learn how to choose the best real estate investment for you. Martin, thank you so much. Make it a great week, everybody. Until next time.
Bye, guys.